Hello my dear friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joycey Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about economic slowdown and we will also analyze whether there are symptoms in the Indian economy which indicate an economic slowdown in India. So first let us understand what is meant by economic slowdown. So economic slowdown means the rate of economic growth slows down. So the growth of economy or the growth rate in the economy is slowing down or coming down, and usually this economic slowdown is measured in terms of GDP. This is because the economic growth of a country is measured in terms of GDP. So GDP is gross domestic product and it is the monetary value of all the final goods and services produced in an economy within a financial year. So when the rate of GDP in an economy comes down, it is called economic slowdown, and economic growth means that the rate of economic growth or growth in an economy is coming down. So now let us first understand what is the current affair related to economic slowdown in India. So we can divide the factors or the indicators of economic slowdown into both micro factors as well as macro factors. Now micro factors means small factors or individual factors. For example, income of certain group of people or the inflation rate in a particular commodity, etc. But macro factors means aggregate factors. For example, the GDP rate, the total output in an economy, the overall inflation rates, the net investments, etc. So these are aggregate factors and they are called macro factors. So the current affair is that both macro as well as micro factors in the Indian economy indicate that there is an economic slowdown in the Indian economy. That means the GDP rate of Indian economy is coming down. So in this context, we will analyze what are the reasons behind the economic slowdown and how to overcome this economic slowdown. But before we begin, this is our channel StudyIQ and we are providing pen drive courses for various competitive examinations including SSC and bank courses, UPSC optionals, SSC JE courses, teaching examination, railway examination, defense examination, RBI grade B, NABARD grade A, UGC NET, UPSC Civil Services Examination, CLAT exams for various state PSCs and also for various professional courses. You can visit our website www.studyiq.com for more details, or you can call to any of these numbers for more information. Now let us first understand what are the signs of decline in the Indian economy. So what are the symptoms or signs that shows there is an economic slowdown in the Indian economy? Now, if we look into the automobile sector, there is a clear indication of an economic slowdown. Let us take the example of Maruti Suzuki, the largest car maker in India. They had posted a double-digit growth rate of around 14% during the year 2018. So, in 2018, they had posted a double-digit growth of 14%, and this was during the period April to June. That is the first quarter of 2018. Now, if we look into the 2019 growth rates of the same company, it has come down to 2%. So the growth rate was around 14% in 2008 and over a period of 1 year it has come down to less than 2%. So with this declining growth rate in Maruti Suzuki, the company has announced a cut in the car production for March by over 25%. So because of their slowdown in growth, they have announced that there will be a cut in the production. Now, what are the implications or impacts of this? When there is a cut in the production, the total output in the economy will come down. So, GDP is measured in terms of output. GDP is the monetary value of all the final goods and services produced in an economy. So, when output in an economy comes down, it is clearly understood that the GDP rates also will come down. So, the first impact would be that the GDP will come down. Secondly, with a cut in the production, the number of employment will come down or the employment generation in the company will come down. So this will aggravate the situation. Now the third indicator is that there is lesser consumption or lesser demand in the economy. For India is a demand-driven economy. So when consumption or demand comes down, it has a direct impact on the economic growth. So these are the impacts or indicators of a production cut by a private company or any industry in India. Now let us take another example of Mahindra. the tractor sales for Mahindra, which was almost 40% plus market share, declined in 2018 December. So here also there was a reduction in the sales for Mahindra. Now coming to two-wheeler sales, since December 2018, the two-wheeler sales in the country is also very moderate. Now coming to the consumption side. Now the consumption side so far has impacted or affected only the discretionary expenditure. Like for example, products like cars or consumer durables like AC, refrigerators, televisions, etc. They are consumer durables. So until now, the economic slowdown has affected only discretionary expenditure. That is, they are not essential commodities or they are not mandatory commodities in a household like the food items. Now the expenditure on cars or consumer durables have come down and they are discretionary expenditure. But what is the problem here is that now there are signs of a consumption slowdown spreading to non-discretionary items too. So if there is a slowdown in consumer durables or cars, it is a cause of worry, but still not to a larger extent. But if this consumption slowdown passes or spreads to non-discretionary items like food commodities or essential articles, then it is a major cause of worry. And why is consumption important for India, or why a consumption slowdown is a cause of worry for India? It is because India is a consumption driven economy. So the GDP or the demand in an economy or the production and output in the economy is driven by the demand of the households. So India is basically a consumption driven economy or demand driven economy, and therefore any slowdown in the consumption or demand is the cause of worry for Indian economy. And consumption expenditure contributes to around 56% of the country's GDP. Now let us come to the macro indicators. Now the macro indicators, like the micro indicators, they are also not presenting a very encouraging picture. Now if we look into the 8 core segments in Indian economy, what are the 8 core segments? Steel, cement, fertilizers, coal, electricity, crude oil, natural gas and refinery products. These are the 8 core segments, and these segments you need to remember. This is very important for your UPSC preliminary examination. UPSC has consistently asked about the 8 core industries and which industry has recorded the maximum growth. Such type of questions have been asked many times in the previous years. So core industries are a very important topic and very favorite topic of the UPSC. Now coming to the 8 core industries, the 8 core industries grew at 1.8% growth rate in the month of January. Now, in the previous month, that is December 2018, the growth rate was 2.8%. So, here also it's a worrying trend because the growth of 8 core industries have come down, or the average growth rate of the core industries have come down. Because this 8 core industries, they together make up around 40% of the industrial production in India. So any growth slowdown in the 8 core industries indicates that there is a serious growth slowdown in the Indian economy. Now the industrial output has also dropped. In January 2019, the industrial output was 1.7%. But in December 2018, that is 1 month prior, it was 2.6%. So there is almost half a reduction in the industrial output. Again, the GDP growth rate has also slowed down. The GDP growth rate in the first 3 quarters, that is from April to June, then July to September and October to December, that is the first 3 quarters, first quarter, second quarter and the third quarter, was 8%, 7% and 6.6%. It means that clearly there is a declining trend. So over the quarters, from the first to the second, then again from the second to the third, there is a economic slowdown. Now let us analyze what are the reasons for this economic slowdown. The first reason is that the demand for passenger vehicles has declined. We have already discussed about 3 examples in the beginning of this lecture. So the reasons for the decline in the demand of passenger vehicles are due to high interest rates on passenger vehicle loans, higher fuel prices and lack of credit available to the customers for the purchase of passenger vehicles. Now, 2 other important reasons at the macro level are demonetization and the GST. So, let us first understand demonetization. During the demonetization phase, Indian economy, which was largely a cash-based economy, all the informal sectors had to suffer a lot. But remember that Indian economy is largely informal in nature. So the informal economy in India had to suffer a lot. And cash was queued out of the system, and many small businesses found it very difficult to continue their operations. Now again the GST also. The informal sector, the small businesses find it very difficult to cope up with the GST. So GST and demonetization together has also impacted the economy at macro level. Now again the currency in circulation after the demonetization phase also dropped about by 1 percentage point. So these all were the impacts of demonetization and GST. And again, if we look into the banking sector or the financial sector, the bank credit also slowed down. This is because the banks had to make higher provisions for bad loans. There was an issue of increasing NPAs or non-performing assets in the commercial banks. So with the non-performing assets increase, what really happened is that RBI had to make stringent rules in order to increase the bank's provisions for bad loans. So with that, the credit rates also slow down, or the credit available through the financial institutions also slow down. So lack of credit means that lack of investment. Lack of investment means that lack of or decline in production, and that will indicate that there is a decline in output. So this was another reason. Again, the PCA, that is prompt corrective action, that was taken by RBI, and several banks were put under the prompt corrective action framework of the RBI. Again, under prompt corrective action, the banks will be restricted to provide more credit, expand its branches, to expand its operations, etc. So that also impacted the credit flow or the money supply in the economy. Now, along with all these was the NBFC crisis, which started with the IL&FS crisis. So NBFC sector was a shadow banking sector which provided credit to the needs of the industry. Now again, there was a liquidity crisis in the NBFC sector, which again slowed down the credit flow into the economy, thereby reducing or cutting down the production and the output. Now regarding the last two reasons, that is PCA and NBFC crisis, if you want to know the details of PCA, that is prompt corrective action, and NBFC crisis, I have made separate 2 lectures on PCA and NBFC crisis. You can refer to the video which is available on the StudyIQ channel as well as on my Facebook page. So you can find the lectures on the names prompt corrective action and the second lecture NBFC crisis. So please find out, and then you will be able to learn more about both of these issues. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page, and for any queries regarding your preparations, you can get in touch with me on my Facebook page, or you can email me at joyce.studyiq@gmail.com. Thank you.